Welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape, United Methodist Communications and UMC.org's podcast to help keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joe Iovino. When United Methodist pastor, the Reverend Betsy Singleton Snyder, found out she was having triplets, she knew her life was going to dramatically change. Some of what she's learned she shares in her new book, Stepping on Cheerios, Finding God in the Chaos and Clutter of Life. Betsy and I recently talked about what she learned about the church, getting help, imperfection, and so much more. Enjoy. Hi, Betsy. Welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape. I am really happy to have you on the podcast.
Well, I'm really happy to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You are a pastor, a missionary, a wife, a mom, a blogger, and a new author of a book called Stepping on Cheerios, Finding God in Chaos and Clutter of Life. So let's explore some of that if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your ministry as a United Methodist pastor.
Oh, I've been at it quite a while now. I actually got my call at my home church where, ironically, I now serve.
Wow.
As a United Methodist pastor and a lifelong United Methodist, I was baptized in the United Methodist Church as a 8-month-old on Palm Sunday. So my roots go very, very deep in the Methodist tradition. So that call evolved over a long period of time. And to be quite honest, I didn't see a lot of United Methodist female pastors. I was coming of age when that was really just beginning to get going in the 70s, even though we had been ordaining as of last year, 60 years. It was a progression of what our forefather John Wesley said, the process of and the journey of sanctification, really, the process. I have an older brother who had also followed that path and started nagging me about the reality that he thought I had a call. And then once I finished college and began to prepare for graduate school in writing, another nuisance was my associate pastor who began to say he thought I had a call, and I started to think I had a call. So I ended up in seminary at Perkins at SMU, graduated in 1991. So I've been in ministry, 28 years now.
Wow. And somewhere along the way, you married a U.S. congressman, right?
Yes. It took a while for us to find each other. We're both, I like to say, in terms of family stuff, we're both late bloomers. I had always wanted kids, and honestly, I had been in a relationship prior, a marriage that did not go well, and so I didn't know if that was going to happen. I thought about adopting on my own, but I met this man the year I turned 40, and he happened to be our United States congressman from our district. Dick Snyder represented our 2nd, and I really admired him. He was a physician. He had gone to law school at night. Yeah, he's no slacker. He'd also done a lot of medical service abroad, and so the night we actually really met and sat down and visited, we talked about our travels in terms of mission. And service, and his had been medical mission, and mine had been, church related. But that was one of the things that I hadn't realized about him. But yeah, he'd already served for almost 5 years by the time we started dating. So I started dating a congressman, and that was a little odd for me.
I can
imagine.
imagine.
We were out in the public.
Yeah.
But I began to adjust it pretty well, because one of the things I learned was that being out at political events is a lot like being at church events for a pastor. There's a lot of potlucks and a lot of church events that you go to locally. So there's a lot of things that, as a pastor, I found myself pretty at home. And a funny part of that was one of the times when we would go to a place, more people would know me than him if it was a Methodist event. There were a lot of Methodists.
And then you became a mom, which is a lot of the focus of your book. Can you tell me about your journey toward becoming a mom?
We realized when we got married, we dated 2 years, and so I was almost 43 when we got married, and he was 55. So, I guess most people probably would have thought, a little too late, but we really knew we wanted to at least try to have one child. I had hoped more because I wanted our child to have siblings, probably because of the awareness that we're older parents.
Right.
And also, I am the baby of 5, so I love having a big family. And we embarked on starting to have a family. We realized pretty quickly in the process, our doctor sent us to in vitro, the IVF process, and we tried for a while, and then we stopped for a little while. But we ended up in Dallas, which was very exciting for me because I had lived in Dallas during my seminary years, and I felt very at home there. Through United Methodist clergy women, friends of mine, that's how I was connected with my doctor.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So women are just so resourceful. So I knew another woman, an older mom who had gotten pregnant at this clinic, and it was a highly reputable clinic. We went down there, and that was wonderful. I could connect with friends while I was down there. It felt very homey to me. And took a couple of tries, but I finally did get pregnant with our son, Penn. And it was the most magical experience and deeply spiritual experience for me. It was a really pretty easy pregnancy, something I had really waited for all my life, I think. And so then, right after he was born, I said to my husband, we have to do this at least one more time. So we tried again, and it was very, very hard because, we had 2 embryos left, and when the doctor said, well, you do have a 50-50 chance of getting pregnant with twins, the embryologist consulted at the same time saying, well, I think probably this isn't a time to be cautious. So we decided to put 2 embryos in.
Right. Okay.
And after the first 6 weeks when we went in for ultrasound, I knew by then I was pregnant with twins because of my symptoms that were very heightened, and my blood tests revealed that my hormonal levels were really high.
Okay.
So we knew that. So we had our first ultrasound. It was confirmed we had twins, and we went back several weeks later, and I was having my ultrasound, and my husband leaned over because he's a physician, saw the screen, and said to the doctor, there are 3, aren't there? And the doctor said, we need to talk. And I'm sitting there saying, what's going on? What do you mean? What are you talking about, 3? And my doctor leaned over and took hold of my hands and said, he's from Guatemala, really nice man. Uh-huh. He said, you are going to have triplets. And I have never, ever in my life been so shocked and so surprised. And it lasted for quite a while. It's still sometimes it's pretty shocking. And when we actually told our church family, and we told them a little earlier than we might, simply because it was a high-risk pregnancy, and the church I was serving at the time, very sweet congregation, I was senior pastor there, and they were all such cheerleaders for us in this process. And we stood up, my husband held our son, and I announced that we really needed their prayers because I was pregnant with triplets. And there was just an absolute audible gasp and horror.
I can imagine.
I think it's kind of like, better you than... I know people just didn't see how we were going to manage at our age and stage of life. It was at the time it was very serious, but I look back now and can laugh about some of those crazy days that we had at the beginning.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so a lot of your book, which again is called Stepping on Cheerios, Finding God in the Chaos and Clutter of Life, is about your family life and your adventures in raising 4 boys, which sounds fun at times, but also can be a little bit overwhelming.
Well, absolutely, because when I embarked on this, I thought surely, especially after the ultrasound, where we found out the gender of our kids, I thought, well, surely there's a girl in there somewhere. No girl. And so for me, I thought, I wonder if I can do this, because if you're going to go into the ministry as an ordained clergy and as a woman, it is still not a piece of cake. There are still a lot of hurdles, a lot of obstacles. There's still a lot of sexism, and it can be quite a challenge. So what do I have to offer these boys? So I think that was kind of probably one of the things is I learned very quickly that boys are very, very physical. Now, I'm not going to be sexist here and say that girls aren't,
Right.
But it's been an observation and talking with mothers, too, that have a girl and then they have a boy and they're like, oh, my gosh. And it's so different. And I do hear that on a regular basis, so there must be some truth to it. But once they got mobile, it was difficult when they were in diapers. I mean, I can remember having them all laid out on the bed and getting clothes on before they could really roll over. But once they are on the move, it really is almost nonstop watching.
Yeah.
Because you never know what they can get into, no matter how hard you try to baby-proof.
Sure.
And so just sheer physicality of keeping up with their little boys. And our son was only 2.5 when they were born, so he was, a toddler.
Yeah, a toddler and 3 infants. That's a lot of...
Yes. And I had lots of help. And by that, I mean, of course, at this time, my husband, he was still in Congress. So we had the babies December 9th, and by January 15th, that was Barack Obama's first swearing in. So, in January, first 4 years. And so my husband goes off to the inauguration. And we had a person, in fact, the gifts that people gave us were, they gave us money into a special fund for a nanny, her name was Lisa, nanny for newborns.
Ah.
So she was with us 4 nights a week from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. while he was gone, just for that 12-hour shift, because I was also trying to breastfeed, which is not easy.
I can imagine.
And the sheer volume of bottles, you make up the bottles once a day. I did have to quit breastfeeding after 9 weeks because, in addition, and this I mentioned this in the book, I had heart failure after they were born, so I had to get on a different kind of medication that would not allow me to breastfeed or use my milk. So we went to formula. So we would put all these bottles in a little mini fridge upstairs, and we used a can of the large formula every day.
Oh, wow.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap. I had breastfed my first one, and I never bought formula, so all of a sudden, whoa. But my husband was on pretty much every week through 3-4 nights a week before he could come home, and sometimes he couldn't if there was work on a particularly difficult bill, like the Affordable Care Act, for example.
Sure.
I remember one time he didn't come home for about 12 days or something. So, that kind of crazy, but, I have such respect for our military families and those whose spouses travel a lot. It's very hard when you're trying to juggle all this as the primary parent at home.
Oh, sure.
But I did have a lot of volunteers. We had volunteers out the ears from church, from the neighborhood, from the community, people who heard, the Snyders are in trouble. It was like George Bailey. They're in trouble, and they need help. So we had tons of people, and I pointed that in my book. It was wonderful. It was a different kind of experience than my first, because I wasn't alone with my little baby playing with him every day. I was in a survival mode, and I had a lot of people in my home, and it taught me about community, but it also was very, very hard sometimes to never be alone and just to teach volunteers and to go through and be, I'm a Southerner from birth, and so you have to be hospitable, and sometimes that gets exhausting being nice.
Sometimes it's hard for those who are trained to be caregivers to be care receivers. Was that part of the learning process you're talking about?
Yes, and also to let go of the reality that other people are not going to do it like you.
Right.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about that in the book as well. But it's very hard for perfectionistic people who are driven to do it a certain way, and that would be me. Because I have a vision. I'm a vision person, so I like it executed my way. And even though I've been a pastor and certainly shared in vision and helped execute those with a lot of wonderfully creative lay people, having people come into your home where it's most private, your sanctuary, and working with your children and helping your children, it means that you're not fully in charge.
Right.
And so I really had to learn that God gives us the gift of community, and it's not always easy. it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be work in a ministry, I think. I don't mean like work as in just toil, but it's a vocation to learn to live in community and not always have it your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good for church people to learn that. It's good for Christians to learn that. And it's good for moms to learn that, or parents in general.
Along the same lines, and I'm not going to get this exactly right because I'm just doing this from memory, but in the book somewhere you say something about not trying to be the perfect Facebook mom. What advice would you give to keep that from happening?
You need to let some people know when the days are not great, when it all goes south, because I've come to see that even when it's not pretty, I mean, I'm not suggesting that people have to get extremely personal on social media. That can be rather dangerous, but I do think if you're going to be in community through social media, you need to let people know where you're at.
Right.
And I've always found that people respond to that in a powerful way, because they realize also that, the pictures that we post of our children always standing in front of the door of our porch or sitting nicely on the couch.
Right.
That took a lot of effort to get that picture.
Hey, absolutely.
Or the beautiful plate of food that somebody takes a photo of.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't just happen.
Yeah.
So there's work in all of the beautiful outcomes that we have that we see. I posted a picture last year of my husband was building a butterfly garden, and I wasn't excited about the location of it, to be honest. He had these teeny tiny plants, and it was right near the road, really, our street. And he had spoiled up all of his lawn there, or tilled it up. My kids were all over the place. There was just mud everywhere, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I've got to trust him, because we have another garden we built, and it's beautiful. It's a tiered garden, and he's amazing with doing these kind of wild-looking gardens. So I thought, okay, just got to chill out. But I posted that picture of my kids' feet because it's always a little hard for clean freaks to really let that happen.
Yeah.
I knew that was not going to stop at the garage door, or the carport door. That dirt was going to come in my house.
Absolutely.
As we get caught up in competition, I think it's natural. It's part of the human condition for us to look around and see where our inadequacies are, what we perceive to be our inadequacies,
Sure.
rather than to realize, hey, we are the creature. We're the creatures, the human beings that God has created. We're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be unique, and we all have something to bring to the table. But it doesn't have to be perfect.
One of the other pieces of advice that you give in the book that I found really refreshing and a little bit different is that you talk about being able to talk to your kids about the difficult things of life as well. It's not just doing this on Facebook, but it's also sometimes kids hit some sad times or some difficult times. And you encourage parents to share that with their kids and not protect them from it.
Yeah, and it is a little bit different. I think, of course, we have to keep in mind the age of the child. But I do mention a time when our 2.5-year-old, our oldest son, he was probably about 3 by this time, maybe 3.5. I took him on an escalator, and, you're always talking about safety, and unfortunately he got a shoe caught in the escalator.
Oh, wow.
And I had to really pull to get it out, and he was fine, but it scared him to death.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in a department store, and I went to got to the landing, and I just pulled him out. The scream. There's this, couple of seconds, and this is that shriek of incredible fear that came out, and I could see the faces of the clerks all around me. They were just really looking at us like, oh, you poor thing. But I just thought, this kid is going to be afraid of escalators, something that he thought was... In fact, I'd been shopping and said, we'll ride the escalator as part of our treat when we're through. So I took him back up. He did not want to go, but I carried him up the first time, and then we came back down, and he stood. Mm-hmm. And it was all okay. Now,
Yeah.
there are other things that happen in the world that I don't think you can totally shield from your children. We're a family that has been involved in politics, and as a United Methodist pastor, I need to know what's going on in the world locally and globally. We have a global church, and so I don't want to shield our kids from the bad things. I mean, even Mr. Rogers, one of the things he said I think was so important is talking directly to children, respecting children as human beings who have the same. If we have fears, and children have fears, I think they just are more out there.
Right.
We learn over time to push ours down and to not deal with them.
Yes.
So my kids know when I get tired, I get grouchy, and I tell them, look, I'm getting grouchy. I'm feeling bad. I'm not doing well today. They don't have to guess, oh, did I do something wrong? No. You own your own stuff and the not-so-pretty parts of yourself. It gives them permission to also say, well, I'm not doing so well today.
Yeah.
And then say, well, tell me about that. Talk to me about that. But I think that's really important work that parents can do. And again, as a pastor, we talk about if there's an earthquake or a natural disaster, we, as United Methodists, have this wonderful thing called the United Methodist Committee on Relief. We're all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was going to say, I'm sorry I dropped that thread, was Mr. Rogers used to say that when there's bad things happen, look for the helpers.
Right.
I think, of course, he was a pastor, too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's a very good theology. Look for the helpers, because that's what the role of the church is to be helping when bad things happen. That's part of our task. And we're all over the world trying to help people in war-torn situations and famine and disaster. And so I tell my kids, I'm so proud to be a part of a church that loves people all over the world, that can help people all over the world, not just here for us,
Right.
but in places that we physically can't be, but we can be.
Yes.
So we make a big deal out of putting together health kits. And, of course, I'm a huge, passionate person about mission, and that's part of my job. But that's one of the ways we get to share about how to alleviate suffering and how to be with people when they are suffering, is by modeling being with it, and also modeling that when you're suffering, even though as first world people our suffering may be different. In our homes, upper middle class people, we also have neighbors. One of the things I do every year is, every church I've been in, the last three churches, we do the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade March. And it starts in a part of the city that is divided by, and this is a big part of our city's unfortunate history, the freeway, the interstate. And so we start over in this part that divides the neighborhood and class and race, and we march. And as a church, with our African-American brothers and sisters, all the way to the Capitol. And that has a really profound impact on the adults and on the children. Wow. I think they get to ask questions about, why does this neighborhood look different from ours? Why is this the way it is? And so we have an opportunity to talk about difficult subjects when we put ourselves in a place to be present with those that I believe Jesus wants us to be with, those who are outsiders, who are either they're suffering, they are looked down on, they've been rejected socially, been oppressed. I mean, those are the things that Luke recounts Jesus saying were his number one mission.
And throughout your book, you also weave scripture to help your children grow into their faith.
Exactly. One of the things I find is there is still a swath of us who are not familiar with the Bible in the way that our forefather John Wesley would want us to be. And so there are so many stories we're not aware of. And we think that we have to have a secret code to unlock them. And yes, there's a lot of resources certainly that pastors learn at seminary, but I have found if I tell the stories, the parables that Jesus told and the stories, looking at, for example, as I did in my book, at Mary, Mary, the mother of Jesus. Well, a lot of people have, way before me and for the last 2,000 years have talked about Mary. But I try to talk about Mary like a real, live mother.
Yes.
I don't think we should put Mary up on the pedestal as a cold statue figure. Mary is a living, breathing, amazing woman who heard God's call and walked with her son through it all. And a lot of people don't pick up on that.
Right.
You know, they don't really notice that, but she's there. Whether it's at the wedding at Cana or whether she's trying to get him to, quit hanging out with the people that that she's not sure about. I think it's very annoying probably to her when he says, hey, this is my mother and my brother and my sister.
Sure.
Anyone who hears the word of God and lives it. Oh, my goodness. Well, if my son told me that, it probably would pierce my heart, too. But it's the truth. Because baptism, and I think Will Williman said this first, I think that's where I first heard it, that water in the church is thicker than blood. Water, our baptismal vows, and by virtue of our baptism into the church, into this community, we are related. We are family.
Yes.
And so I've taken to actually calling it family. Friends and family.
Oh, okay.
Family. A lot of our folks need to just hear these stories put in a more contemporary context. So that's one of the things I tried to do in the book, so that they wouldn't be so frightened by Scripture.
Well, we are coming up against the time, and we have barely scratched the surface of everything that's in your book. I just want to list a couple of things we didn't get to talk about. You give some advice on marriage, what you've learned from gardens and dogs and cats. We didn't get to talk about the parable of the thrown confetti or leading children's time in church and Christmas trays. I mean, there's just so much here, and I recommend your book to moms and dads, especially maybe those who are feeling a bit busy or overwhelmed, to pick up your book and to get some encouragement there. It's just a great read, and I'm sure a lot of help for lots of parents. But before we go, I want to ask you the question that I ask every guest on Get Your Spirit in Shape. And it's simply this: is there a practice or an exercise that's meaningful to you that helps you to grow closer to Christ in your faith experience?
Yes. I have several, but my practice, and I try to weave this into some of my writing as well, is we have a movie night with our kids. And also, we're not much on television per se. Mm-hmm. We're more of a family who likes books and film. So we talk about it, too. So on Friday night, if at all possible, if we're not involved in something that the kids don't have, they recently had a big ice show, for example. Yes, it's true. You too can learn to ice skate in Arkansas. The Wizard of Oz was what the show was about. So my boys love The Wizard of Oz, and there's a lot in that movie to talk about. Talk about The Little Prince, and there's some incredible Japanese films from artists who are incredible animators, and we talked about those. And of course, we've watched the regular Disney crew as well. And recently, I think the last thing we saw was Beauty and the Beast. My husband also, on our date night, we usually go eat dinner, and almost always, I confess, cheese dip, and and then we go to the movie. And we try always, especially, to see all of the Oscar-nominated films. Those, for me, always bring up Scripture and always bring up faith stories and challenges that we find in the Bible stories that are a deep part of our human experience. And they're told, quote, from a secular point of view, but there's so much in that, because I think God's the creator. There's handiwork in all of art. So, and I feel God's hand in that, and I perceive it in that, even if the artist doesn't.
That's something that we can certainly give a shot, bringing our faith to the movie theater or to our couch. It has been a great pleasure talking to you, Betsy, and I really appreciate all the time that you've given us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
That was the Reverend Betsy Singleton Snyder, United Methodist pastor, mom, and author of a new book, Stepping on Cheerios, Finding God in the Chaos and Clutter of Life. You can follow Betsy at womenaidsstand.com. That's WOMENADESTAND.com. Womenaidsstand.com. You'll find that link and others, including where to buy Stepping on Cheerios, at umc.org/podcasts. Look for this episode called Parenting, Chaos, and Community. While you're there, send me an email about your experiences in parenthood, receiving help from your church, or whatever else you want to share. From that page, you can also subscribe to Get Your Spirit in Shape with iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Then new episodes will automatically download to your device as soon as they're available. Next month, we'll be talking to those who created the United Methodist Church's advertising campaign that features questions from children. It's sure to be a fun conversation. Thanks for listening and subscribing to Get Your Spirit in Shape. I'm Joe Iovino. Peace.